Channel 347, your hallucinating state of nations today. Hi. In on the whale. What's coming is, in the future, if you haven't, kind of worked it out, is a kind of virtual reality that's going to marry up with quantum computing and holograms in the, you can't see it at the moment, but if you put your glasses on, or in a few years after that, when you get a chip in your head, I'll be right just in front of your fucking face, right in your room. That's what's coming. It's kind of coming for the robots who are going to get chipped up, it would come quicker than those who won't. And those who won't, those who don't, there'll be a mixture, right? Because there'll be a mix of those who've got it and those who haven't, and those who haven't, I'm afraid, are going to lose the angle on it all. Because what's his face? Can't remember his name, but he's produced a company called Tesla. He's ripped off the name of Tesla to use in his the car Tesla, but he's kind of taking people to the moon and he's putting chips in people's faces. Well, the robot was already here. Humans are already robots because they kind of respond to stimuli. I listened to about 20 minutes, as much as I could bear, of Boris fucking shit Johnson's speech today in Parliament, followed by the Labour Party, which is not right now in its pants after Corbyn made I suppose you could say he made an effort to stand in kind of opposition, but if you want to take my line on it, it was already set up. He was never gonna get in. He just had to sit there as kind of representative of some hope that the left had. But if you noticed, there's no hope now. It's all been covered up, and the Labour Party now sitting right in the pants of the Conservative Party, and they're following the line of the Imperial Oxford College statistics on COVID. And that's the mainstream line too, so it's all in the whole media do the same thing. They don't pick up on nobody, all the doctors, all the nurses, all the scientists who are coming together to say that there's absolutely no evidence whatsoever for a second wave of coronavirus. Absolutely none. And you can guarantee that the statistics are twisted as fuck. That's how it all works. It's kind of like, they're all in each other's pants. And they don't do things unless they're in their pants. Anyway, this song, right, I've got a song for you. Because I'm not going to go on, it's kind of boring. But, anybody today can pick up a microphone and say what the fuck they like. And you really should, because that, if everybody did and put their own version up on Facebook Live, their own voice, they'd soon be listening. But people don't do that. They just kind of mostly just send memes without saying anything themselves. You notice that, how people send memes, but they don't say anything themselves. I'm not saying everybody, because there's a few who kind of got over that problem. I'm not saying anything themselves. Well, it's free today. Anybody can do it. In fact, it's been free for a long time. But have people got onto it? I think there's a fear, right? There's a fear in there with people hearing themselves, looking at themselves in the mirror. I'm gonna go slightly quiet because we're in an enclosed environment, and the guitar is slightly out of tune, as I've told you before, and my voice, well, you know, is growling. Come down to play, major boy. Come down to play, major boy. I'll wait again, just like a baby, just like a baby. Bishop fire, Bishop fire for Billy O. It's like yesterday, look at you now. Gone, gone on in. Gone on the Almighty. Take me to see, take me to see. Take me to sleep under your silken curve. And that one grows, you know, it's kind of like, I just get into it at that point. But I ain't going there tonight, because we're going to kind of leave this one a bit short. I did start this one, this is take 2, outside, but the light went, and it's like, you know, winter's coming, and the light is closing in, and the dark is getting. So you know, I'm actually better when I've got some smoke around me, but I haven't got it. I've got a cigarette, but I haven't got the smoke tonight. That's okay, you know. Like, what you're meant to do is kind of get addicted to yourself, right? Because, you know, with yourself, you'll lose the need for any other addictions. But I do hit it off better when I'm high on the smoke. Instead, I've got Night Cider, which is another advert, I guess. But I'm getting paid for that yet, because I'm short of viewers. But you see, when, as I was saying, that virtual, you know, hits in, You'll be getting me kind of like right in your front room. I kind of know because my brain did the unfortunate, cycle of uh, after working in media for 20 years, kind of being able to predict what the future will be. So I kind of know where it's going, and where it's going is that like I'm gonna be in your front room because there is something I did want to talk about, and that is that, and I'm gonna save it really for another session because it's quite an interesting one. But apart from this age we're in being, the worst thing that you could imagine, because that's what it is on one level. It's also if you've worked it through, and I get kind of bored with people who haven't changed their opinion of what's going on with their lives or themselves or what they're thinking, because changes like the most important thing that can happen to you. And if you don't change what you're thinking about what you thought the universe was, then in my book, and it's just my book, you're you're kind of, you can see right through, because those who get on to change, changing what they imagined the world was, are much easier to correspond with, because they know that things have changed in their own thinking, the way they thought the world was from a certain point. It's a kind of trigger point, and that's the beginning of growth, because after that it doesn't stop. What I'm saying is you change your perception of what reality is many times. It's a growth thing. It's like, the whole thing with the cycle, where you come back to the same point and you see the same thing again, and but you're seeing it from a new light, and you suddenly get an upgrade in terms of like what you thought was going on, but what now transpired as being something which was completely different from what you thought, which is true, because that's what change is. Everybody has to go through it, but it's like, it's not just once, it's many times. It kind of goes round, and it keeps on going round. You come back to the same thing, and you pick up on what you thought was going on, and realize it wasn't what was going on. Absolutely not. And then it gets upgraded. Well, this doesn't happen once. It happens once you get to the spin going. It keeps on changing, so that the universe actually, from personal perception, changes, keeps on changing. And so let me just give you, the line on the fact that there's no accidents. In fact, from a perspective, the world is perfection, especially now with technology the way it is, because if you've got an eye for it, you might not have. Not many people have got an eye for it. It is very connected with the third eye. As I was saying yesterday, the third eye, once it's open, is completely connected with the root chakra, so that images, apart from being, just like objects of, desire, they're not just objects of desire, they're actually electrical points of connection that actually connect with your body, so that your body is reacting to the impulse of an electrical pulse, if you like. One of the problems with many people today is that they're not picking up on the alignment that they have to make with well, number one, Earth, right? Because there's a frequency you have to pick up on. And once you're aligning with the frequency of Earth's frequency, um, then the greater, because it's not just Earth, is it? Earth has a frequency which is aligned with one, number one, the solar system, and then the great universe, and the many levels it goes back into the. Well, this is where they get, everything is one. Well, it is, but you have to break things up first, and yet you have to understand the breakup. So the difference. You have to understand the difference before you get to the one. The one is back there, but it's after you've understood the difference. There's differences, and your human genome, which was like an experiment in a laboratory, DNA experiment, which shut off. I'm not quite sure yet, what they took, to get it, but obviously there was an pre-existing body on Earth, right, which was unaffected by any interference, right? So that was one part. They took that part, right, which might be Neanderthal. Neanderthal was supposed to be telepathic. There's not many. There's not many telepathics. There's a few. I know there's a few. But there's not many. But they were supposed to be telepathic, the Neanderthals. So it might have been that the Neanderthals were, one of the part of the experiment. So they took an experiment, right? And the other part of the experiment was something they'd already been experimenting with. So it was a kind of an affected being, and they put them together, and then created Homo sapien, which is or Cro-Mag, whatever, us. And in that experiment, what they did was according to Enki, if you can't understand Enki, then and Isis, the Isis side of that, Anunnaki story. If you understand that, then it's a matter of it's not a matter of agreeing with it or not. It's just a matter of understanding what they're saying, and then once you've understood, because as Einstein said, it's one thing knowing, but it's another thing understanding. Once you understood what that meant, then it becomes a line of thought that you can easily place on what we are, right? Which is they wanted to create a slave. So what do? They kind of turn off all those things which made the Neanderthal what it was, which was a telepathic extraterrestrial. And which is like, to back that one up, you just listen to Laura Magdalene Eisenhower, and I kind of picked up on something she said, which it was as if she was passing over, but I kind of like hold her at that point. And when she said, we were all extraterrestrials, we lost the story some point, which is true, which is exactly the point she's talking about, which if there was an experiment, then that was the point we lost touch, because what they did was with the DNA is they turned the switches off. So what I'm saying about perfection is that all the triggers are there still, for people to pick up on, and that you can turn them back on, but you have to go through a process to turn them on. I've been going on for a long time now, but just to sum that one up, it's kind of why I'm saying, actually it's the perfect age to be alive, because everything is there, and there's no mistakes in that. What you were actually meant to do was to discover the light, right? First, right? Because you have to discover the lie. And then you have to live through the response to discovering the lie. So that's a living thing. So discovering a lie sets up an intention, which then becomes the seed that's dropped. And then you have to live, devote oneself to that new intention, which is to rediscover. And what I'm saying is that if you're looking carefully, then everything's there. You know, everything in reality today is already there, right before you. You can get all the satisfaction you ever wanted just by seeing what's already there. But you won't get to that unless you've discovered the lie first, and the lie is ever present. It's in the politics, man. It's in the nature of the civilization we've ended up with, which is well, it's taking people down with it, and how far people want to go down with it. Well, like quite obviously, like most people are happy to go down with it at the moment, and but and this is where it kind of like if they keep on going down with it, what you end up with a robot, which is a copy of the machine that you initially were. It's just a copy. It's not even it's nothing to do with the real thing. The real thing has been lost in a copy because they're trying to put a piece of metal, And then there's countless stories of maybe they're doing it through vaccines. Well, it's not impossible. It's really not impossible. I don't know, but it's not impossible. You need to think about that.